So we'd like to begin our second part of our dialogue today. We'd like to invite Dr. Shomali to come and speak to us from his experience with the Focolare and broader experiences and reflections on dialogue.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I would like to start with offering my greetings of peace to you. Assalamu alaikum. For me, as I said, it's a very important day, not just because I see many lovely people, but it's also bringing back lots of good memories. And I would like to start with the way my serious involvement in dialogue started. Of course, I don't think I was never in a situation to doubt dialogue, but to actually be involved in dialogue started with my encounter with the Focolare. And I always thank the Focolare for being a very good window for understanding Christian world, and actually through the Focolare I managed to make friends with many other movements or orders or denominations of Christianity, but the experience with the Focolare was very important. So when we were here in Hope University, and I think it was 1997, there was a lecture theater, which was not like this. It was much smaller. And next to me was sitting Father Jonathan. And Father Jonathan was very kind, as he is always kind. And I told him I look for some kind of opportunity to visit Christian seminaries, because I have my background in seminary. Of course, I have done also Western philosophy in Tehran University, but my main training comes from seminary, and I said, I want to visit some Christian seminaries. And he suggested to visit Ampleforth, which is not a seminary, but a place for formation of the monks. And we visited together Ampleforth Abbey. And he kindly came to Manchester, then we drove to Ampleforth and we slept one night there. And I was very impressed with the spiritual atmosphere of Ampleforth and beautiful, chants of the monks, and the fact that their life is built around prayer and work, which is very similar to our understanding, and 5 times of prayer. And Abbot Timothy Wright, who used to be the abbot of Ampleforth, he welcomed me there. And in one of our meetings he said, don't let the monks contaminate you. So it was a kind of maybe wording for me, but later I realized that he had actually a worry in his heart, because later he told me I was telling myself what this smiling face is going to do here. So that was the first experience with Muslims also. So he invited me to go again and visit them. Then I went with my wife and children. Sometime we stayed 1 week in the guest house of the monastery, and Father Jonathan helped me to get into the Benedictine world, which I'm going to refer to this later. But then here also, when we came here, we were very impressed by the love that Focolare have for God and for people. And being away from Iran, which is a religious country, and from Qom, which is a very religious place, we felt, that we are somehow a stranger in the secular society. But when we came here and saw our Focolare friend and their love for God, it was a source of power and assurance for us. So then we decided to take part in Mariapolis. And I think the first Mariapolis that we attended was in Lake District. Yes, and that was, and we were the only Muslim family. And we used to stay in a caravan site, and Father Simon and Christina used to visit us. And Father Simon has some stories to tell you himself. And in the night, we used to go to corn mill, where few people were meeting for discussion in the night. And we had very nice memories of those. And then we kept meeting. We attended the Mariapolis in Sterling and again in Lake District. In '99, we were invited to go to Rome. There was a celebration for the eve of the new millennium organized by the Vatican, but also the Focolare had a convention for Muslims. There were, I think, more than 300 Muslims there. Some 90 people from US, W.D. Mohammad and his people. So that was also a very important opportunity for us to know more, the depths of the Roman Catholic Church in Vatican. And we also went to Lopiano with other guests, but we decided to stay longer. We stayed 2-3 nights, and we had a very wonderful guide with us, Marite, and we used to call Marite our local Chiara. She's very kind and very supportive, like a mother, thinks about everything. So that was a very good time for us to know more about the Catholic Church. And then I was also in 2000 able to visit again Rome, and Dimitri was my host, and we really had wonderful time with Dimitri. I call him my encyclopedia, and he is full of information and experience and wisdom, and I'm proud of Dimitri. And so he was so patient with me, like a child, I was asking many questions, and he was very learned and very informative. So we visited many places in Rome again, just me and him, and then he took me to Assisi, and I loved Assisi, very spiritual, peaceful place. And then we went to Padova, then I went to Perugia, I went to also Pisa, to different places, and sometimes I went alone and I stayed with the Focolare. And one of the beautiful things that happened was that in my dialogue with the Ampleforth, with the Benedictines, I had the opportunity to also visit them and give them some talks. In 2000, when I had finished my PhD, I was in Manchester, and Abbot Timothy told me, Mohammad, do you want to give a talk on Islam? This was after several years of knowing each other. I said, I'm happy to give a talk on Islam. He said, what are you going to say? So without me thinking, because it was just the same time that he suggested, I said, maybe I talk about Islam, I give them an introduction, and I talk about Islamic spirituality, and then I talk about some practical instructions given by Muslim mystics. So he said, Muhammad, why you don't come 3 times and give 3 talks? One, introduction to Islam, one, Islamic spirituality, and the third, practical instructions. So we fixed the time, and it was according to the English calendar, but it happened that the first talk coincided the demise anniversary of Prophet Muhammad. So it was significant for me that in this day I'm going to meet my Benedictine friends and talk about Islam. So Abbot Timothy said I was very worried what would be the reaction of the brethren then, because they didn't have experience with Islam, and also, most of them were middle-aged or old people. So but thanks to God, the speech went well, and we felt we have lots of similarities. And one of the things they used to tell me is that what you say is in the Rule of Saint Benedict. And I had not read Rule of Saint Benedict by that time, but just seems that the root of Rule of Saint Benedict and all other spirituality is the same. It's based on our love for God and the guidance we have received from God through different channels. So in 2001, when I was going back to Iran, I invited one of the monks, Father Woolston from Ampleforth, to visit us, because we used to discuss a lot when we were going to Ampleforth, so I thought it's good if he visits us. And he said I should take permission from Abbot. So he went to Abbot, and Abbot said, I myself also love to come. So we invited both of them to come to Qom. So in 2002, Abbot Timothy and Father Woolston visited us in Qom, and we had wonderful time there. They were very impressed by the openness of the Shiite Muslims, because in the seminary we invited everyone to come, and we always ran over time, very lovely discussions. So we were in the car driving from Qom to Tehran. And I say this because I want to say sometimes you don't know the significance of the moment. And it's very important to know that these moments can change your life and life of many people. So like my conversation with Father Jonathan, how changed for me my life. Now, we were in the car and talking about having a kind of dialogue, Catholic Shia dialogue, in the UK. And then they said, it's a very good idea and we can have it in Ampleforth. This is 2002. So I said, it's very good to have it in Ampleforth. I love to come to Ampleforth, of course. But most of our community are in London. So what about having one day in London and then the rest of it we continue in Ampleforth? So they said we have to go back to UK and find who will be a good partner for hosting us in London. And when they went back, they found Heathrow College interested in hosting our dialogue. That was good, not only because we had a place to host us, but also it brought academic input of Jesuits to our dialogue, and it was very good. So we planned the first dialogue in July 2003. We had the first round of Catholic Shia dialogue in 2003, and it was considered by the tablet as the first major British encounter of the Catholic theologians with the Iranian Shiite thinkers and theologians. This is exactly the word of the tablet. And we decided to publish the book based on the papers and also to plan another visit. So in 2004, this book was published. This is the second edition. The first edition was hardback, but this is the second edition. So Catholics and Shia in Dialogue, Studies in Theology and Spirituality. So this was published 2004. And 2004, Abbot Timothy and Father Bonaventure, if I pronounce well, and two people from Heathrow, Anthony Mahoney and Michael Barnes. They visited us in Iran 2004. Again, we had discussion, we had visits, and then we planned the second round in 2005. So 2005, we had our discussion again one day in Heathrow and the rest in Ampleforth, and that was based on reason and faith in theory and practice. So again, we decided to publish it. So we published the second volume of Catholic Shia Dialogue, Reason and Faith in Theory and Practice. And then, again, we had visit of some Christians. This time was Abbot Timothy and an Anglican lady. And then we planned for the third round of dialogue, which this time was in Worth Abbey, because Abbot Timothy was no longer abbot, and Worth Abbey, they had interest. So we had in Heathrow College and Worth Abbey on ethics, ethics in general, and bioethics, environmental ethics, and business ethics. And then we published this book, A Catholic Shia Dialogue, Ethics in Today's Society. Then for some time, unfortunately, we didn't have dialogue because Abbot Timothy moved to Rome and he was no longer in UK. I used to take different groups to Italy. So once I took a group of clerics who were doing PhD to Italy, and he was in St. Beda College at that time. And we said, why we don't have it next time in Rome? So the first three were in the UK, so let's have the next one in Rome. So we decided to have the fourth round of Catholic Shia Dialogue in Rome, and we were hosted by St. Anselmo, which is for the Benedictines, and Abbot Primate was very supportive. So we had that dialogue in the fourth in Rome, and that was based on prayer and spirituality, and we published then this book, Monks and Muslims, Monastic and Shia Spirituality in Dialogue. This was, the first three were published in the UK, the fourth was published in the US by Liturgical Press, which belongs to St. John's University for the Benedictines. And then the fifth round, we planned it to be in Qom. So we had it in Qom, and 10 Christians from 8 countries, including Abbot Primate, Abbot Timothy, they came to Qom, and we had it on friendship. So that was very good time, because we really felt friendship. We really felt friendship. I cannot, express this by words. Just you have to be there to see how much God gifted us with real sense of friendship. And that is also published. So this is Monks and Muslims 2, Creating Communities of Friendship. And then we planned for the 6th round, which we had it in October last year, 2014, in Assisi. So we had that love for Assisi that I developed, and Dimitri took me there. So we had it in Assisi on the idea of community, because I thought community is very important. And the book is coming soon in London for that last dialogue. But this was only one line. I was then involved in dialogue with Jesuits, with Anglicans, with Mennonites. We have had 6 rounds of dialogue with the Mennonites. Maybe you know the Mennonites who are Anabaptist Christians. So I used to take groups to visit different parts of Christianity. So with my wife, we took twice a group of ladies to Canada, to Canadian Mennonite University. Last year we took a group of people to US, which was historical, a group of 10 ladies with chador, and all these, going to US. And we had a very good time in Virginia when we visited Eastern Mennonite University in Harrisonburg. So thanks to God, after these years of experiencing dialogue, which started in 1997, now I have not only myself and my family, but I have a group of friends and students that we are all into this dialogue, not just with mind, but with our heart. And dialogue for us is very important. About 6 years ago, the seminary of Qom, which is the largest Shiite seminaries, we have more than 70,000 seminarians, Iranians, and more than 10,000 international students from more than 100 countries. So the seminary of Qom accepted my suggestion to establish a new center, and that is called International Institute for Islamic Studies, where people come to specialize. For us, we have long, process of training. We are just getting warm up after 5-6 years. 5-6 years is nothing. So people who come to this institute, they come after 9 years of studying the seminary, just to do the last 2 levels, which takes another 7-8 years. And they have to be fluent in English or Arabic. Our language is Farsi, but for this institute, they have to be fluent in English and or Arabic. And the programs are designed in the way that they understand Islam in modern context, and they are able to serve our community abroad, but also to be building bridges, to be active in dialogues. And we were very successful in having very good students enrolling to our institute. And we have some 70 students, which in our standard is very little, but right from the beginning I said we want to be very selective. And now we send also our students to different places so that they can get into this world of dialogue. For example, I sent 2 of my students to St. Ottilian Monastery in Munich, near Germany, in Germany, near Munich, to be there 5 weeks with the monks to get, the experience. And one of our very good and special experiences was last February, March, when we took a group of 7-8 ladies to Lopiano. This was their second visit of Lopiano. The first visit was very short, just we stayed there for 1 night, but we had also several days in Rome and Castel Gandolfo. So I said I want them to stay longer in Lopiano so that they can feel what is life like in Lopiano, especially for those who go for formation. So our Focolare friends who also visited us in Iran, May 2014, they worked hard so that they can develop a model. This was new for them, to have, Muslims in Lopiano for, a kind of quick formation. So, thanks to God, they came up with a plan, and I took, with my wife, these ladies to Lopiano, and they stayed there for 4 weeks. And it was wonderful. They had a study for half a day, and they worked half a day, like, the Focolare, new people to Focolare. Yes. So it was a very nice experience. And now we are in contact, and we want to see what will be the next thing that, God wants us to do together. And one of the beautiful moments was when we met in Sofia University, and, Piero Coda. So he was very happy with the way that session went, and when we talked about dialogue and wisdom. So he invited me to give lecture next academic year in the course that they are introducing on interfaith. So I'm going to have some contribution there. I want to just end this. How much I spoke? Okay, I am just warming up. I would like to end this part with my understanding of Focolare, and then I mention some of my reflections on dialogue and unity. I have been observing Focolare movement for years now, from '97, and also I didn't spare any time to visit them. So not only in different houses of Focolare in UK, from London, Liverpool, Leeds, up to Glasgow and Edinburgh, I have visited them, but also in other countries. So if I went to Poland, I made sure that I visited Focolare. If I went to Philippines, Lebanon, US, Canada, everywhere I tried to visit the Focolare. Different cities in Rome. So, for me, then, few things were established as facts. And this is important. I had to spend lots of years to reach this point, but now I try to pass on this quickly to other people so that they don't need to spend all these years. So, one of the beautiful things I found in the Focolare was, which was very important for me, and I don't know how much Focolare themselves, know this point, or how important it is for them, but for me it was very, very important, is that you always find the same spirit. A person that you know for years, and a person who meets you for the first time, they treat you the same. Yes, a person that you know, of course you have more history with each other, you can understand, but the same love, the same passion, the same unity. For example, once I was in US and I was in Georgia because it was American Academy of Religion, they had their annual, and there was book display. So many people bring their books to that. So there was a lady from Focolare movement who was responsible for the book stall of the Focolare. So I met him just when I was visiting. But as soon as we met each other, and I told about myself, I found she was so lovely, like an angel. And this is what I have found in any place that I have visited. They may look different. Some are Eastern, some are Western. They speak different languages, but they look the same. And this is very important for me because we have in some of our hadith about the companions of the 12th Imam. We Shia believe in 12 Imams. And the 12th Imam is in occultation. So he's alive, but we cannot identify him. And he would come in end of time, and according to Islamic hadith, with Jesus. And they two come together to establish justice. We have in our hadith about the companions of the 12th Imam, something which I found it in the Focolare. And I have to say, still I haven't found it in my own community. It says, كَأَنَّمَا رَبَّاهُمْ أَبٌ وَاحِدٌ وَأُمٌّ وَاحِدٌ. It's as if they are brought up by the same father and mother. So maybe someone from China, someone from US, someone from Iran, someone from Iraq, someone from Brazil. They speak different languages, they are different colors, but when you look at their understanding, mentality, spirituality, you think they are brought up by the same father and mother. And I was able to see this in the Focolare. And it was very important for me, that it shows that first of all, something like this is possible. And secondly, that God, through Kihara, has gifted Focolare with this spirit, which is very important. And then the hadith says, قُلُوبُهُمْ مُجْتَمَعَةٌ بِالْمَحَبَّةِ وَالنَّسِيحَةِ. Their hearts are united with love and wishing good for each other. So, gradually, when I was doing these dialogues, I was trying also to reflect on theological and spiritual implications of this type of spirituality. And I was trying to reflect on Islamic teachings about this. And thanks to God, over years, I came up with many different ideas. Then I tried to publish papers, to give lectures. So I just mentioned some of these reflections that I thought might be interesting, and maybe these are the points that we can work on in order to have a common spirituality which would be appealing to Muslims, Christians, and other faith communities. The first reflection I had, and actually this reflection came to my mind the first time in Castel Gandolfo, when I took that group of PhD students. We were talking with Roberto and Christina and other people. I don't know if Dimitri was in that meeting, about love. And I said, it seems that in the world we have two problems. One problem, of course we have many problems, but maybe two major problems. One problem is that there are people who have never experienced love for God. For us, it's very difficult to understand how much a person suffers when he has no God in his life or her life. Because we have always been gifted with this. But a person who doesn't believe in God and doesn't have love for God and is not sure that God loves him, so in this world he is a stranger. He just feels he doesn't belong to anywhere. It's like an orphan who has been orphaned from all different possible angles. They suffer a lot. And we have joint responsibility to call them towards God. If I as a Muslim call them towards God, or Christians alone call them towards God, then I don't think it has that power and that attraction that if we all together share with them. Because then they would not say this is something sectarian or, something that is biased, we have to call them towards God together. Unfortunately, the sad reality is that sometimes either we ourselves or some people try to make us conflict so that our voice would not reach anyone. And indeed, people say, look at these religious people, they are sources of all the troubles. Which is not the case, but this is what some irresponsible media try to say, that religious people create all the problem. If you get off religions, we don't have any problem. So we should do the opposite. We should show that we can call everyone towards good and God together. Another problem in the world is found in the people who love God, but in the way which is not right. So then I said, and this came to my mind the first time in Castel Gandolfo, I said, it seems that we have two types of love. Possessive love for God is one type. So I love God, but I want to own God. I want to possess God. That is my God, not your God. You have no right to claim that you love my God. Even, in some countries, nowadays Muslims and Christians have difficulty whether they can call God or Allah, which is ridiculous. But I think the root is either ignorance or ego, that I want to have monopoly over God. Instead of me becoming an agent for God, I want to make God serve my interest. I want a God that can justify my selfish work. You see, people refer to God to justify slavery, to justify terrorism, to justify killing, to justify injustice. A God who is brought down to the level of some selfish people, of course, can do that. A God in that manner can be very harmful and destructive, because it's not really God. It's a human being who is projecting his ego to God. But another type of love for God is that you try to be possessed by God. Instead of bringing God to the level of human beings and make it God of a person or a tribe or a sect, you try to rise to become closer to God, so you will be a godly person. We don't want to have a God who is a person with all the limitations and all the selfishness and egoism. We want to be like God. And when we go towards God, then we would be able to love everyone. We would be able to wish good for everyone. Because we are no longer human beings. We are now vicegerents of God. We are the people who are speaking and working everything according to the will of God. So we have a choice to make. Either we want to possess God, possess religion, have monopoly over it, and then we will continue to have all the conflicts and all the restrictions and limitations. Or we want to be owned by God and possessed by God, and then become godly, and then from that vision of God look at all people as children of God. Even we will not be limited to human beings. We will love animals, we will love plants, because for us everything created by God is sacred. But for a person who has brought God to the level of human beings, there is no such a thing as sacredness except their own interests. That's the only thing which is sacred. Nothing else is sacred. And then I was able to find a good comparison between Prophet Abraham and Satan. And this is all the blessing of that visit of the Castel Gandolfo. So I said a very good contrast can be found between Prophet Abraham and Satan. You know, Satan worshipped God for many years, according to Islamic traditions, for 6,000 years. He had no problem. Indeed, he was enjoying a lot, worshipping God. But there was a real test. And that was when God asked him to prostrate before Adam.
So, your relation with God only would be really tested when another person is involved. Because between us and God, there can be no problem. But when God says that you have to love people, starting with your wife or husband or children or neighbors or strangers, that's when the problem comes. So Satan for 6,000 years worshipped God, and I always say, if you can do something for 6,000 years, it means that you can do it forever. But when God said, prostrate before Adam, all the problems which were hidden appeared. He said, why I should prostrate before Adam? He refused. He insisted, and then he was rejected. But opposite to this is Prophet Abraham, who is very important for all of us and very important meeting point for us. Abraham had the habit of inviting people to share a meal with them. You know, he was very hospitable. So sometime when he didn't have guests, he used to go outside looking for some guests. But he used to shut the door so that no one disturbs his family. There is a hadith which says that Abraham, when he was going back to home, he found a person like a human being in his house. So he was surprised. I shut the door and no one has also any arrangement to be in my house. Who is this person? So he asked him, بِإِذْنِ مَنْ دَخَلْتَ هَذِهِ الدَّارِ, with whose permission you entered this house? He didn't fight him, he gave him chance to defend himself. This is very important. So he asked him a question. And he said, بِإِذْنِ رَبِّ هَذِهِ الدَّارِ, with the permission of the Lord of this house. Abraham didn't say, I am the Lord of this house. No, he realized that this is God sending this person. Because we are not the Lord of this house or any house. So that angel told him, someone is chosen by God as his friend, and I have come to inform him. It's very important. It's a, I think, big test for imams, for priests, for everyone, for lay people, to test ourselves. If you are put in such condition that you are someone like Abraham, with all the merits that Abraham had, and he was an apostle of God, at least this the only quality we know, but he had many other qualities. He knows also people around. These are the people that either they are faithless, or if they have faith, it's through him. And this angel is found in his house, and he says there is someone who has been chosen by God as his friend, and I want to inform him. So what would be your understanding? You would say, it's me. Thank you very much for bringing this news to me. You wouldn't even wait for him to say who was that person. You think, oh, it must be me. But Abraham didn't think like that. Abraham said, who is that person who is chosen by my God as his friend, so that I serve him till I die? This is important. This is the quality that we religious people, we people who love God, should have. Are we able to volunteer for serving people who love God and loved by God? Or I say, I am the only person who loves God. We are the only people who love God. No one else has done anything for God. Abraham volunteered to serve any person. He didn't say, let me first see who is that person. If he looks like me, if he thinks like me, then I'm going to serve him. No, it was not important for him. Any person who is chosen by my God as his friend, I'm going to serve him till I die. Then the angel said, it's you. And again, Abraham didn't say thank you. He said, why? Why God has chosen me as his friend? Because he didn't find he is special. So, this is big contrast between Abraham and Satan. So, now it's a big question for us. Do we want to follow the path of Satan? To worship God, but in a way which is selfish, in a way which has no place for any other person, any other group? Or we want to serve God in the way that we can accommodate everyone? This is a big, I think, test for religious people. So we have people who have no experience of loving God, and we have people who have a strong experience of loving God, but in a very misguided way. So this was one of the reflections.
Yeah, we might have, but we have to go for lunch at 1:45, isn't it? Wait. Yeah, fine.
So maybe I mentioned one more point and then we can have. So this one that I am sharing with you is reflection that we had very recently. So that was for a few years back. Now this reflection is very recent. You know, when we were in Lopiano last time, in February, as I said, we took these ladies and left them there. So, and I told my Focolare friends that this shows how much I trust you, because I'm bringing these girls that normally they don't travel, alone, and I am living there, with you, because I have full trust in you. So, once we were sitting with some priests. There is a house in Lopiano for the priests. So we visited them, and then I said, to my understanding, there is a way that God has designed to guide us. In the course of history, God has sent different prophets in different times, different places, and different languages. God sent, Moses, Noah, Jesus, Prophet Mohammad in different times, different places, and they spoke different languages. They addressed sometimes same issues and sometimes different issues depending on the requirement of the time. But these are teachers, guides that are sent by the same authority. They don't have their own independent authority or educational system. They are just sent by one God. But the requirements of actual human historical life force them to speak differently. But I think in the end of time, when Jesus comes, and when the Muslim leaders and Jewish leaders all come together, we would not have different schools. One school for Jesus, one school for Muhammad, one school for Moses, or other prophets, so that they teach separately, different textbooks, different syllabus. No. Our hope is that in the end of time, we would have only one school, and that is the school of God. But we would have different teachers, different classes, but one syllabus. That is what we are going to reach. That unity is going to be established. And it's up to us to make it earlier or later. But I think that is the plan of God that is going to happen. But God doesn't force His plan. We can make it faster, or we can do nothing. There would be other people who would do this. I think the experience, the spirituality, the theology of the Focolare, in my understanding as a Shia cleric, is playing a great role to reach that point. I said to my friends, the priests, I said, every one of us are like drops of water. A drop of water, what can do? Even if you have 1 million drops of water, you cannot do that much. But if these drops of water become united, then you can have a nice lake. And I said, for me, Focolare is a nice lake built by thousands of drops getting together. And we should have an ocean. So now we have this lake, and we should reach the point that we have an ocean of human beings united. I said, I don't know whether this lake is going to grow and become an ocean, or there will be similar lakes and then merging and become that ocean. But our prayer is that that lake will grow and we will reach that point of having that ocean of unity. If one person can be an image of God and can reflect God as a drop of water, then you can see what united humanity can do. The way that we can reflect God when we are united is different. A drop can reflect sun, but an ocean can reflect sun in much different way. So we hope that our Focolare friends and all people who have the same mentality will become day by day more united and more stronger, and we try to do whatever we can to spread this message, which is no longer a message of one group. This is a message of all of us. And I don't see any problem to say as a Muslim that I love Focolare, I respect Focolare, and I feel Focolare spirituality is for all human beings. Thank you very much.
You have been humble to say your heart and soul to us and give it to us as a gift, and we are very appreciative. We really are. But we feel that we are all of the same heart and soul, and that's what really matters.